Sorry guys for the late post, but it took me a little bit to get this all sorted out. And without further ado, let's get into the UA Win-A-Box event hosted by Keb. He's starting up new events. He should be hosting Tuesdays most of the time, so it'll be very interesting to see how he goes about it in the future. But it was a first free Win-A-Box that he hosted, so it's kind of cool to see those things, right? So without further ado, let's get in the video and talk about it. So the breakdown was 3 bleaches, 2 Jujutsu Kaisen blue, 1 hunter, 1 Code Geass purple, and 1 Code Geass green. I don't understand why it's posting as Jujutsu Kaisen green, but it's a little bug apparently. But as you can see, a lot of great players that were actually in the regionals last weekend. So this is kind of cool to see, right? So let's get into the deck list one by one, and it'll be kind of cool to look at. So first off, we do have a Kento nominee version. This one is focused a little bit more on Kento. Doesn't even play the bounce Yuji Itadori, and I think that's just a personal choice. At the end of the day, it's not a bad call, right? I like where they're going with it. They use Jujutsu High's first years to be able to draw 3, then place 2 cards, you know, from their hand to help dig a little bit, because you can combo with the 2 cost Kento Nanami being able to, you know, place 7 cards from your sideline into the removal layer. If you do draw 3 cards, that would just speed up the clock, you know. Sometimes that's all you need to kind of just inch that win ahead, is just getting a little bit of extra damage, right? Sometimes it matters. And another thing you do play is like this Kento. So it's very hyper focused on the Kento Nanami style of play, with using Sukuna and Yuji Itadori just to use it so you can just hopefully just draw with fingers using it as your AP extension. So it kind of just changes up a little bit of the strategy, right? And then you also have the 1 cost of Panda, just being able to nullify an impact per turn sometimes can help save your life. So stuff like that is very vital. Then we do have a purple Ichigo list. So this one focuses a little bit on our 7th place. George ran this list. So we have Oryu, we do have Ichigo, we do have the old Ichigo 1 cost, then you have 2, you have 4 of the Kisuke Urahara and 4 Renji Abarai, all just really good starting off the way. They also do play 2 Orihime just to, if it happens early on. I think a lot of players are starting to phase out of the bouncing characters, because again, we are in a very aggressive style of play, and it's starting to show that you don't want to bounce your characters off the board and kind of just reset. So it might just be a different strategy, and sometimes it does matter. What's very interesting is they are playing the Renji 3 cost 1 AP. So if on your front line, place the top card of your deck into the sideline. If you do choose up to 1 other character on the field, it gains 500 BP until the end of their turn. Plus they also do get substitute Soul Reaper of Karakura Town. So draw 2, then place 1 card from your hand into the sideline. It's just not a bad 1 draw. So it can help you dig a little deeper, and sometimes you just need that extra advantage, right? Sometimes if you're bricking early on, you know, an Ichigo going first and then your 2 AP turn, you know, substitute Soul Reaper can draw you 2 cards, and then maybe you'll be able to combo out from there. So stuff like that does come up from time to time. Then we do have the 6th place list. This one's a little more unique. Only plays 2 bounce VV, but they are playing Cillian. This card is just your 2 AP, your 2 energy generator when it's standing. You know, they are playing Cornelia as a 0 cost with added. They are also playing Britannian soldiers. They're really, Britannia soldiers is a really interesting pick, but if you kind of look from this list right here, they only have basically 9 untriggerables, and that's vitally important, right? Some lists started kind of hurting because you're not triggering as much, and you just sometimes need those triggers, right? So they are playing the 3 energy Euphemia. So this one's going to basically, you can, if you need to block with her early, you can block with her early, or you can just put her in the energy line for 3 and then set yourself up. You do have also 3 unit maintenances that are some players are playing. So again, a lot of players are starting to groom into this more aggressive style with Lancelot because they can't set up as easy because so many aggressive decks are trying to apply pressure to it. So it kind of just starts making sense, right? They also are playing one Charles Z Britannia just because of the ability to play a thing from your hand, reduce its AP the next event card you use from your hand by this turn by 1. So being able to reduce the AP of the next event card is kind of crazy, right? So that means Charles can activate when you play him, just instantly go and use live, and your opponent's just gonna have a bad day. Or you can use a free bars, or you can use unit maintenance to combo with him as well. So being able to have your next event card free is always scary, right? And then, you know, the Lancelot shenanigans. Also, what's really interesting about his play style is that he did slam these things vanilla just to set up against decks that were a little bit more aggressive. So sometimes adapting to the strategies instead of playing how the deck originally is meant to is sometimes the best way of getting some victories, right? Then we do have the 5th place Megatons. This one's a little shiny and flexy, you know, power of absolute obedience, United States of Japan, Collins to help search out the mechs, and I kind of get it. It's a good value target that just sometimes you need to search out your mechs, and there are times where you are struggling to get them. So it's kind of cool that they are trying to fit her in. A lot of players are kind of iffy on her at times, but it's not a bad deal, right? So taking a look across the board, you know, you have Gurren Mark II, you have Gurren Mark II, you have Gawain, you know, all great raid targets that apply a great deal of damage the moment they come in, right? So something to just think about as time goes on. Then we do have, you know, another Bleach deck. This one's a little more aggressive if you can take a look at it. They are only playing the Rukias just to be 4K vanillas, but they are playing Ichigo. Ichigo is select a required energy amount, then reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. Add up to 1 character card with the same selected energy requirement among them to your hand. Place the remaining cards into your sideline. It's not a bad trade-off, right? Ichigo being able to draw, especially if you used the Ichigo that kind of looks at the top, and if it is something that you need, you'll be able to get the card, right? So that's just something important, right? I think at the end of the day, people are starting to adapt and be very interesting with their list, and I like where they're going with it. Here is none other than Moonrose 2nd place Yuji Itadori list. You know, 2 shrines, 4 domain, 4 Divergent Fist, you know, 4 Sukuna Fingers. Just a very stock list that you kind of come to know and love from Jujutsu Kaisen for blue. And again, very phenomenal plays. He had a few times bricking, and it was funny to commentate when he was bricking. It's just always a blast. So just something to think about. This was his list. And then we do have, this is what people are really dying for. This was super interesting. This is a Byakuya Kuchi. This list has been sitting on this EX burst for the longest time, but the deck plays extremely different than what you expect. It is super hyper focused on Byakuya Kuchi. It combos really nicely with the super rare Renji Abarai. Just being able to kill a 4K using the combination of Senbo and Sakurai. You know, if you're not facing against stuff that says DP minusing doesn't matter, you know, this covers all your bases and makes your opponent just have a bad day, right? So it's really cool to see. What players did not notice was Orihime being just a scary threat in general. They just ignored it. You know, then all of a sudden, the first time you'll swing in and get those damage in, he'll let it through. But then all of a sudden, this Orihime is starting to block things. And you're like, wait, what? Restand on block just keeps your little guys at bay the whole time. And it helps against aggressive strategies. And I think this is vitally important because players are usually going to target the better threats. But the double block, and especially because he is playing, let's see, 4, 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 23, 23 restand triggers. So this is scary. His threats are very powerful because, again, being able to block attacks, especially against aggressive strategies with your little guys that you let through, sometimes is all it takes to kind of just end the opponent's turn and strategy. So really good to see how the strategies are going like this. Then we do have Rachel. She topped 11th during the BC, but taking Kurapika here is crazy and very unique. So Shadow Beast, if you're facing against blue and purple, which, oh my god, isn't that majority of the format? So taking advantage with Shadow Beast being able to counteract the blues and the purples, making this thing come in at 2 and being your double energy generator very more comfortably on. This is why you're starting to notice that there isn't any of the guy with the ear loops thing in here, because they substituted for Shadow Beast, which makes a lot of sense, because if you're gonna expect to face purple and, you know, blue all day, this is a great call. Melody is also a great target. Again, I've watched this girl play and watch her just dominate her opponent with this deck list, and being able to dominate and adapt is huge in this format. You know, a lot of players are not adapting as well as they used to decks, especially because a lot of players moved off of Kurapika, but she adapted this and made it her own style, and I think it's vitally important. And if we take a look, we have 2 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15, which is kind of high for their, you know, triggering from security. So that means you're going to have a harder time having good threats, but because of this, it makes up with the 5k. But she was just really on point. You know, Melody applying pressure early on, you know, just having Kurapika on curve 9 out of 10 times. You know, she played this deck beautifully, and I gotta give her credit where credit's due. She did a fantastic job. And I like the Hanzo tech just because it's another threat that your opponent has to deal with, right? An early enough Hanzo can just deal 2 damage and be a 5k, whatever you need it to do, right? So that it just guarantees threats. You know, with, you know, let's take a look here. 1 2 3 4 5 9 13 impact threats. Sometimes it's just enough to close out games, right? It just seems like we need to be a little bit more aggressive, but I think this is probably the way Kurapika players need to kind of go, and I think this is smart, right? So guys, that is the top 8 from the webcam win-a-box. Rachel won the box, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.